It's time to take a stand and stop the sexualization of our children. Action for Canada has created a notice of liability to assist you. The title of this NOL is Facilitating in Exposure of Minors to Sexually Explicit Educational Resources, Activities, and/or Events. The United Nations has mandated that all member nations implement the Comprehensive Sexuality Education Resource. CSE is a learning platform that was developed within the context of a program developed by UNESCO. This so-called resource sexualizes children at the earliest ages possible, and it's no surprise that it's causing great harm to our children, as well as attacking the traditional family unit. According to Section 163.1 and Section 152 of the Criminal Code, as well as the Canadian Centre for Child Protection, it's a criminal offence to sexualize and exploit children. Here at Action for Canada, we've been working to expose this evil agenda and to empower parents, grandparents, and concerned citizens to take a courageous stand. In an effort to assist you, we've created a page on our website where you will find an incredible assortment of information on this issue, including the various programs that have been introduced into our schools. Beyond the Basics is the resource used in Nova Scotia, WIN Sex Ed is used in Ontario, CSE is used in Manitoba, and SOGI 123 is used by the rest of the provinces. By introducing these programs into our educational system, our children and youth are being exposed to sexually explicit pornographic materials in the form of books, magazines, and comic strips. Our kids are also encouraged to become members of organizations that promote sexually deviant behavior and the exploitation of minors. Be sure to take advantage of this notice of liability, which will advise teachers, librarians, trustees, ministers, etc., that they will be held personally liable for exposing minors to any form of pornography or sexually explicit material, as well as any activities or organizations promoting sexual deviancy and the exploitation of minors. By using this valuable NOL, you have the ability to demand that the CSE learning resources be immediately and completely removed from libraries and the education system. That all of the books listed, including titles by the same authors, be immediately removed, and that all educational facilities, including libraries, cease and desist promotion of any and all activities, including performers and clubs that exploit our innocent, impressionable, and vulnerable children and youth. Knowing is not enough. You must take action. Here are some powerful actions you can take to protect our youth, no matter your age or station in life. Pull your children out of public schools and universities. Run, facilitate, join, or help with a homeschool group. Get involved in writing letters and serving notices of liability. Run for office as a school board trustee, mayor, or city councillor. Connect with an Action for Canada chapter near you. We cannot ignore this message. Our children and youth are being subjected to twisted ideologies using social justice as a means to indoctrinate and groom them, and we must protect them. Thank you for taking a stand to protect kids. If you like what we're doing at Action for Canada, please consider making a donation to support our ongoing work. And be sure to join a chapter near you. God bless you, and God bless Canada.
Well, welcome everyone. Welcome to the show. Thanks for joining us. It's going to be a great show tonight. Steve Merrill is joining us once again, and we're going to be talking about what's happening with silver. It is going up, 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 and there's a lot more to come. We've been warning our viewers about this for years, and it's going to be a really incredible presentation that Steve will be giving tonight. But before we get to Steve, I want to share my screen, and we're going to take a look at Action for Canada Canada's webpage, because I want you to be able to access some of the resources. Just in case you can't make it to the end of the show, you want to know where to watch the video tomorrow, I'll let you know. So for those of you who are watching for the very first time, this is what Action for Canada looks like nationwide. We have chapters across the country that are actively working in their communities, going to school board trustee meetings, city hall meetings regarding 15-minute cities, the SOGI 123 in the schools. We're dealing with national security issues. And all in all, this is a campaigns and strategies to deal with our incredibly corrupt government that is working with the globalists and who are wanting to destroy our sovereignty and everything that we own dear. And I was at a meeting last night in Richmond. It was kind of an urgent meeting that was being held. And you may have heard about the recent decision that's giving the Cowichan Indians the band, a certain amount of property. And then the homeowners recently were sent a notice saying, hey, by the way, your property ended up being on the this Cowichan land as whatever they're defining that would be. It's completely illegal and unlawful. It's got to be overturned. But these poor homeowners in the midst of it are going to have to hire lawyers and fight this. And the letters basically said, hey, you know what? You happen to be on this property that was part of this decision to hand the land over to the Cowichans, and your title is going to be affected by this. Can you imagine that? Some of these people last night were the ones that were the residents that were up there speaking to the mayor and council. They've been in their property in their homes for 47 years. And now they think they're going to hand it over to the Indians, everything we worked hard for. So, and now they're using this case in Quebec, and the Indians in Quebec are now going after land. They're like, well, don't worry about it, though. It's only land that's owned by the federal government. Well, hello, the federal government doesn't own land. It belongs to Canadians. So this all has to come to an end. But that was one of the highlights. I've got it live on my X page if you want to go and watch it there. Some of the highlights as well, I had an opportunity while Nikki Sharma, the Attorney General, I mean, she's full on in on this UNDRIP and DRIP and advancing it. And she was there. There was probably near 700 people in the room. And as if she really cared about what was happening, and all the people that were involved and their land being removed was like, where were you during all of these years that this was before the courts and the public didn't know about it? Why wasn't the government advising, the landowners? And they asked the mayor the same question. And they said, oh, well, no, it's up to the Cowichans. They were the ones that were supposed to let you know. Anyway, so the whole point is, our financial security, the things that we have maybe taken for granted that could never be touched, are being interfered with. And so Action for Canada has been on the front line trying to help you as our viewers and our members to make the best decisions and to be guarded. But we also need you to step up and get to those city council meetings. We need you to be involved doing freedom of information requests. What's going on with the property that you're sitting on right now and have spent your whole life saving for? All right, so in a couple of weeks, I'm going to have Dallas Brody on, and we're going to talk more about this issue. So stay informed and stay tuned, and please share our information. Share our rumbles, give us a thumbs up, because as I say week after week, we're really being censored. All right. Now, this was the email. If you haven't signed up for our emails, I encourage you to go under our join button there and join, sign up, just provide your email and your postal code, and then we'll be able to get this information to you. The reason we like to have your postal code is because when chapter leaders step up, we can then reach out to you to say, hey, there's a new chapter in your community, and we'll be meeting on such and such a date. Well, maybe you're the one to step up as a chapter leader, but we want to see that map filled up. And we really, if we could do that, man, we could take this country back. We take back all levels of government, but it does start at the community level. So don't leave it to somebody else. Get involved. Under call to action, if you want to go to weekly emails, That is the fastest way right now that you could get to this page. I send out a page every week on the guest. We provide critical information. You could either do a deep dive into it, do some more research, and then start making decisions for yourself. And I'm going to emphasize tonight, we are not giving financial advice as we have over the past years. We are providing you information so that you can make the best financial decision for yourself. But this happens to be the one that I sent out this last week. On the page, I also, because Steve is going to be talking about the opportunity. I mean, this is what he does. He's the owner of Sun City Silver and Gold in Kelowna, and he buys and sells silver and gold, and he gets some of the best prices in Canada for Action for Canada members. And that's the key. If you hear about this through Action for Canada, we ask that you go to the page, and then when you click on Learn More, you will land on this page. We have a couple of previous Empower Hour interviews that we've done with Steve with his presentations. You scroll down a little bit and it gives you the opportunity that if you, just let me see, if you go to A4C at proton.me, you email Steve and he will get in touch with you and help you out with whatever investments or even questions that you have about making investments. And if you make an order of $5,000, you get a bonus 1967 silver centennial dollar. But wait, there's more. And if you actually refer to a neighbor or somebody else, you make a referral that results in a $5,000 order, you'll receive another 1967 silver centennial dollar. Now, we also, and under current issues, you can find this page. We also have a personal finances economics page where we've had other guests on the show as well to talk about the CBD siege, no cash, no freedom. We have special, incredible interviews we've had with both Rob Anders and Brett Oland as well. This young man as well, Tanner Naday, did an incredible job of putting things into perspective regarding finances and a biblical perspective, shall I say, when he was on the show. If you keep scrolling down, you will be able to even get more information on anything that could be, attributed to investments or silver and gold. All right, so I'm just gonna stop sharing my screen. And what I want to do is bring Steve on now. Steve, welcome to the show. I'm so excited to have you back on. As I mentioned, Steve is the owner of Sun City Silver and Gold Exchange in Kelowna, BC, and he's helped out so many of our members. And Steve, I got to thank you so much. You have made such a generous offer to Action for Canada that as we work and partner together, you are donating back a certain percentage to every order that has been made. And that has helped Action for Canada in moving forward with the campaigns and strategies and the legal action. So from the bottom of my heart, thank you so much. And I really hope that more of our members will reach out to you again and make a few more orders. So welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me, Tanya. It's great to be here.
All right. And on that, what I want to do before we get to your presentation, you were with us back in July of 2024, and I happened to come across the video, and out of interest, I was watching it. But the beginning clip that we chose, the little trailer to that particular Empower Hour interview, I thought was very telling of what was to come. And as I've mentioned in my prelude to bringing you on, that Action for Canada for many years has been trying to help our viewers and our members get in the best possible position for this potential collapse of the fiat system, closures of banks or whatever would come into hard metals. And you made some interesting comments that day. So before I hand the floor over to you, we're going to play that clip.
And okay, the next banking crisis, which has really already started and is never really ended, to be honest, is going to take a lot of people down with it, a lot of institutions. And I encourage people to look at all the biggest hyperinflations the world's ever known. They've all been in the last 100 years. Talk to someone who's got a memory from Poland in the 70s or Hungary previous to that in the 50s. These currencies completely collapsed, and it happened quite quickly. And we all know what's happening at the grocery store today and how quickly prices have doubled just in the last 2 or 3 years. That's a sign that we're nearing the end game of this fiat money experiment. And the end game is horrible. Prices prices start doubling in half the time and then quadrupling in a quarter of the time. And we're on the verge of that. And then the hoarding begins and people start buying all their tires today because why wouldn't you? You can get them and you know they're going to be double next year. And that can parlay into, you know, food and sugar, and let's buy all our beef as much as we can. And that even, unfortunately, creates a worse inflationary problem and shortages at the stores and so on and so forth at the gas pumps and elsewhere.
There you go.
Yikes.
Wow. It's like you were looking in a crystal ball.
Well, it's not that difficult to study a little history and or talk to people who lived through those horrible situations. I see them in my store from Slovenia and sometimes Poland and Czechoslovakia. And I've heard them firsthand from these people. And unfortunately, you know, Canadians tend to think we're all isolated or insulated from these events. And that's not going to be the case.
No, and what's really concerning is many years ago, I've been at this for over 10 years, and when I had started, the MP in my area was Liberal MP Ken Hardy. So I thought, you know, my first time, I was so green back then, thinking he cared about what was going on and realizing that he was full on in on it. And one of the comments he made to me was that the Liberal Party, it was on the legalization of recreational marijuana, but it was the fact they were putting it in the hands of 12-year-olds, and basically they would become drug traffickers for the drug lords, which was becoming the federal government. And they said, oh, we're modeling everything after Venezuela. And I didn't know much about Venezuela back then, but I know now that Venezuela used to be a very rich, wealthy country, probably as naive of us as the people thinking they were secure once upon a time. And then they went in, and what do you think they did? They started taking away the guns. They impoverished the nation. People couldn't find food on the shelves. And the last time, that time that you were on the show, I'm going to just read it here. Dan Vachon, I was sick, so Dan ended up hosting the show, and he'd made a comment, and I give it a chuckle, but it's absolutely the reality of what's going on. And I'm sick for my children that, you know, they're full-grown adults with well-paying jobs. And what is the biggest ticket item in their own home other than gas? Dan had said the grocery cart is the most expensive vehicle we drive right now.
That's true.
And that's why I say
$1,000 a month, or maybe $1,000 a week for the larger families.
Yeah.
You know, it's sad.
So, and for those of us that are investing in silver that, you know, listened years ago when it was whether $21 an ounce or $32 an ounce and where it was going, I believe last week it was up to, was it $76 an ounce? Do you know where it's at currently? I think it had dropped a little.
I know where it's at just about every minute of the day.
Yeah.
We ran up considerably, up over $80 for physical silver in Canadian dollar terms.
Yes.
Around about the 10th, 12th, 14th of October, and have had quite a vicious, dramatic attack. I wouldn't call it a pullback so much, or a correction, as an attack on the futures price. And everybody's that's watching, pay attention, has seen that or felt that a little bit, and is probably wondering, you know, what's going on. So I've tried to bring some information as best I could to help people and remind people that the long-term trend is very much in place and just stabilize things. And it looks like we've pulled back here a little bit, and this could be about where we settle and before we move higher, in my opinion, and the opinion of a lot of people.
Yeah, before there's another breakthrough, because it's you know, said to be reaching triple digits. And I know, you know, when we were listening several years ago, when it was around, again, well, what was it, a year ago, months ago, around the $50 mark. Actually, that was about 2 months ago that it was in the $55 range. It's about June or July. And then it had spiked $10 in 1 month that I remember. But anyways, it is really active. And banks like JP Morgan, you've really well educated us in the past on this, of how they've tried to, what do you call that, restrict the price to keep the price down and
suppress
the price. And I think that was the rallying that took place last week when it had gone up to $80. They don't want to see the price of silver reach its potential, because this benefits them. So why don't we go straight into your presentation? And then if anybody, I want to encourage, if you're online, like it's live on all our social media, if you want to actually ask a question, you're going to need to register and sign on. You can go on to actionforcanada.com on our homepage, and there's a link there. And after Steve's presentation, we're going to have a little bit of Q&A. But remember, we're not going to be offering any kind of financial advice. If you are going to want to make an order, please make sure that you let Steve know that you learned about him through Action for Canada, and then also go to our webpage. On the homepage is a link to the page that I showed you in the opening as well. So Steve, my friend, over to you.
Okay, great. No, thanks, Tanya. I just need to, I guess, click. So this is where we're at. Is everybody able to hear me? I assume.
Steve, we're
Yes.
not seeing your screen yet. If you want to share your screen with your presentation.
Why is that not?
There we
go.
Okay, that's it.
And then just put it into presentation mode for us.
Right.
We're good. Thank you,
Okay.
Steve.
Okay. Well, I thought I'd throw this in here, folks, just for a reminder that the bull market in gold is still very much in place. And you can see what's happened over the last couple of years. This chart goes back to November 22, I should say 3 years, I guess. Every 20% rally, it seems, in the futures price of gold is followed by a pretty harsh and quick pullback. And we've seen that again over the last few weeks. Over on the right-hand side of the chart there, we've pulled back right to about $4,000 in US dollar terms in gold. And that's right about in line with this bull market that we're witnessing. And just to, settle the nerves and some of the emotions of the people out there, the long-term trend is still very much in place. Central banks are still buying over 1,000 tons of gold a year. And silver's following right along. In fact, silver's up on a percentage basis, about the same as gold this year. So it's likely that this chart and this trend holds, that this $4,000 level for gold is going to hold. And in my opinion, probably a pretty good opportunity to buy poor man's gold, silver. Although if you do want to buy gold, we obviously have some of that too. Here's a chart that I also come across here the other day. It goes back to 1929 and illustrates how every time we've had a 10% drop over a course of 6 days, which is what we just saw, a violent one, gold has recovered and proceeded to push higher. In fact, in the last violent attack on the gold price, pullback, if you will, back in March of 2020, we had a similar event where we pushed or where we got knocked back 10% in 6 days. And within 2 months, we were back up 14%. So, and keep in mind, this is all sort of futures market trading. 95% of all this trading doesn't involve any physical metal at all. It's all paper players in London and New York, and in some cases, Asia. And very little of it, these contracts ever settled in gold or silver in physical form. And so what's the gold price? And I always get a kick out of this because it depends on what currency you're looking at. But, today I looked it up, and in Argentine pesos, you got a 585,000 peso price for an ounce of gold. In Russian rubles, 318,000 rubles for an ounce of gold. So it always depends on what form of fake money you're measuring gold in, because gold, as you know, is true money, sound money, hard money, real money. And really, truly, we should be measuring currencies in terms of slivers or slices of gold. a peso should be 585,000th of an ounce of gold, really, truly. And if we did that, I think we'd all have a better sense of what gold really is. But obviously, that's not how anybody prices gold today. We always look to the fiat price, and we're all married to fiat, so that's how it works. But one day we'll be measuring, fuel and baskets of groceries, I believe, in terms of weights, honest weights and measures of gold and silver. And in fact, there's a video circulating online in Venezuela. We were talking about Venezuela earlier, where a shopping mall is accepting payment in grams of gold, and everyone's carrying around little flakes of gold, and that's how they make payment at the mall. So this presentation is really about, like I've done before, who wants to buy gold at 90% off? And some of you know the answer to that, and some of you have been doing that, and I'm just here to remind you that the opportunity is still very much alive, and we're just getting started. Really, we're just maybe halfway through the second inning in this very long ball game, to use a ball terminology. I like to take people back a little bit to the historical role that silver has played throughout the ages, thousands of years actually, and that was one as money. And right up until 1934, when FDR went after the American citizens' gold and silver. A lot of people remember the gold confiscation, not so much the silver confiscation, but he wanted that too, or they wanted that too. And the reason they did is because it was money they couldn't control, that the people controlled. And when money, hard money, silver and gold, are in the hands of the people determine their own destiny and have control over the government. And as we all know, that's not the way it works today, but it was once upon a time, for a short period, the way it worked until it didn't. And the other little clip there, and it's worth noting that United States Treasury back in 1942 held 3.33 billion ounces of silver. And that's a number worth remembering, because mine supply annually across the entire world is not 1 billion ounces today. It varies between 850 and 900 million ounces, and has been pretty consistent over the last dozen years. Well, a single country, the United States, back in the 40s, held almost 3.5 times, almost 4 times really, the total amount of global mine supply today. Gold and silver, we're talking about silver, was money right up until the late 60s. A group called the Silver Users Association had enough. They lobbied Congress to stop or halt all production of silver coins in the States. It took many years through the 60s. There were multiple meetings with Congress. Eventually it happened. And in 1969, we saw the last 40% clad, we call them clad, silver dollars. They were 90%, the quarters, dimes, and half dollars until 1964 in the US. And then they were 40%, just the 50%, just the 50-cent pieces until 1969. The reason they were halted, at least the cover story, was the industrial properties that silver holds and continues to hold and is growing. And you can see the quote on the right. There is no longer sufficient silver available for use in the coinage system to meet the expanding needs of commerce in this country. And that's where we're going next, is to the industrial side of silver. Some of you that have been on the line previous have seen me present some of the numbers from the Silver Institute. Every year they do a silver survey. And in 24, they give us all the 23 numbers. And there's a lot of controversy over these numbers. There's people like Keith Newmeyer, the president of First Majestic Silver, who doesn't even participate. He's one of the largest silver miners in the world. They are, because the numbers are massaged quite a bit. And you can listen to him talk about these Silver Institute numbers. But in a general sense, the numbers that they do deliver are reasonable, and they can tell from certain public companies, especially the larger mining companies who are public, what is the mine supply on an annual basis and what is the overall demand. And demand, there's no question, from solar and from battery tech and green tech, if you will, is overwhelming supply, and did again in 2023. The deficit was large, a few 100 million ounces. And you can see that supply was down, especially in Mexico. There were a number of reasons for that. But more importantly, also part of the Silver Institute study was that the LBMA warehouses, LBMA stands for London Bullion Market Association, were very much in free fall. And you can see some of the stats there. The global identified reportable stocks, that is above ground bullion in London, fell by 388 million ounces. And investor demand continues to stress those reserves, and that continues today. So this was back in 2022. Now this is a fellow we've been following recently, and he works for the TD Bank, believe it or not, TD Securities. His name is Daniel Gali. And in April of 2024, I started poking around and listened to what he had to say. He's been following very closely these supply, or this above ground supply in London especially, and noting the demand upon those reserves, and the fact that a lot of those reserves, a lot of that silver, is held in storage for a big ETF called the SLV. And the custodian, believe it or not, of that large stockpile of silver in London is JP Morgan. So we've known for a long time they're playing games with that actual metal, shell games, if you will, and that the supply was falling beyond what they were reporting. Well, this guy's dug into it and done some pretty good research, and really made the call back in April 2024 that what was anticipated previously to be a stockpile of silver that could take many, many years to deplete. And you can see what he says there. He believes now that this could potentially be challenged within 12 to 24 months. That is a complete draining of the LBMA reserves. Pretty shocking information, intel, especially coming from a banker who maybe is working for the white hats and not the dark hats, but we'll see. So we skip forward to the 2025 World Silver Survey, which delivers the numbers as best they can from 2024, and we see a giant surge in silver imported to India. Now, Indians, as many of us know, are very fond of gold. They bank with gold. Gold is in the DNA of the Indian people. They use it as collateral. Throughout the country, there's millions of people involved in the gold trade. And there was a large movement that was consistent over the course of the year. 247 million ounces of silver is almost a third of global mine supply, which is truly startling. Now, some of that, obviously, a lot of that was for their tech industry down there, and there could be tech companies that are ramping up their supply so they can stay in business. You also saw an extraordinary jump, 195% of bullion to 38 million ounces. The second largest increase in bullion, when they say bullion, that's fine metal, that's 999 refined, emerged in Japan. The Hong Kong import, you can see, rose, and industrial demand was up again by 4%. The deficit was 15% of global mine supply. So again, for the sixth or seventh year in a row, there is far more demand for silver, both from industry and from investors, than is mined worldwide. And those deficits over the last few years have been drawn from various above ground reserves, like in London, where we've seen some stress over the last few weeks and where we've seen what is a short squeeze. playing out and what has got a long ways to go. So here's a chart of Indian imports from 2024. And you can see the giant move. This is Tavi's chart, in line with what the Silver Institute had to say from the Silver Survey. You can Google this article. This was really interesting to me, that India has announced that they're changing their banking guidelines to include silver being used as collateral in India. And the collateral rules call for up to 10 kilograms of silver or a kilogram of gold. So previously, silver wasn't recognized by the banking industry in India as a metal that could be collateralized, that could be used as money, basically. And effective April 2026, they're going to change that. And this has really, I believe, going to have some really significant consequences on silver supply, as Indians, who are 1.5 billion people, and then the surrounding Asian communities, who are all somewhat gold buggish, start to move to silver, which is poor man's gold in a lot of their eyes, and it's just as pretty, and they wear it just as much in a lot of cases. So it's now possible that an Indian citizen can pledge up to 10 kilograms of gold, and the ratio is interesting to me. The 10-to-1 ratio. 10 kilograms of gold obviously isn't the same value as a kilogram of gold. Right now, you need 80 kilograms of silver to meet the rupee or the dollar value in dollar terms of a kilogram of gold. And so there's some correction to come, and we believe, and this is part of my pitch, that silver is the way to own gold at 90% off. And it looks like some of this is manifesting in India, which is very interesting, where billions of people rely on gold and now silver as a means to keep their grocery baskets full. So the walls are closing in fast. The LBMA reserves have dropped considerably, and there's some suggestion here, 700 million ounces, but 450 million ounces of that silver is held in storage. JP Morgan, as I said, is a custodian, and it's not supposed to be let out, leased, or used as collateral in other paper instruments, or for other paper instruments. There's a lot of paper games going on with this silver, and there's ways that the cartel, I call them the gold cartel in London, use this silver to plug the holes from time to time that appear in the dike. And here's Gali again, most recently in September, telling us that silver appears to be entering the end game as renewed investor interest eats away at the last dregs of above ground stockpiles. A shocking statement, really, coming from this banker. And then he says, if investment demand picks up, as we've seen happen from previous easing cycles, he's talking about interest rate cycles, and we're in an easing cycle, if you will. Interest rates are falling. Stockpiles could be depleted within 4 months. Well, this is what we've been talking about for many years. It's just a bit shocking to me to see it in print coming from a banker, and then splashed all over Kitco and all over the media, and especially in Asia. I love this chart. This is the adjusted for inflation chart from 1980, when silver, adjusted properly for inflation, was near $700 US. And then for most of the 80s and 90s was suppressed and pushed out of the spotlight entirely, as the entire boomer generation, the Western world, ate up financial instruments and stocks and bonds and everything but silver and gold. But guess who was eating up all the silver? Industry, and especially the tech industry, the electronics industry, all the cell phones, all the keyboards, every gadget known to man, every smart bomb, every smart appliance requires silver, and there's really no replacement. So the industry really did benefit from cheap silver through the 80s and 90s. And at the turn of the decade, or the century, that's changing a little bit now. But the demand coming from especially green tech is as is surging. So here's this clip that Tanya talked about a little bit about why silver and gold didn't manifest, or the prices didn't move like they should have through the 80s and 90s, as everything else moved higher. Gold touched 850 in 1980. Silver went with it at a 15-to-1 ratio to just over $50. And theoretically, everything that went up since then, your real estate, your lumber, your tires, dental work, groceries, obviously, and gas, went up through the 80s and 90s, and silver and gold fell 75% up to 85% by the late 90s. And that was by design. And the people that doing it benefited greatly from selling you paper assets, paper instruments, and keeping you plugged into the system. And one of their great fears, obviously, and it's manifesting now, is that silver and gold are starting to send signals. And as they do, people start to pay attention, and silver and gold get some press, especially some good press. And as that happens, it's a snowball effect, and more people want it. Well, this is the death knell of this scheme that these bankers have been using for years. Physical offtake is going to break this shell game that they've been playing for a long time. By some estimates, 300 ounces of silver have been created on paper and trade in the paper markets for every single ounce of physical silver. And it's not going to end well for them. Up till now, they've paid their fines, and they've slipped away from the handcuffs and away from jail time, obviously. But it's eventually it's going to play out, and it's not going to be good for them. It's going to be very bloody for them. This game is obviously known to some of the smartest gold buyers in the world. And last year, about this time, we saw India repatriate 102 tons of gold from the Bank of England, where they'd been keeping most of their gold, almost 1,000 tons. India claims 855 tons. They now say they've got 510 of those tons back within the country. Why? Because keeping valuable assets closer to home and not in the hands of the bankers, where they can be used to where they can be rehypothecated, is the term, or used as collateral for other leases and other loans, is not what India wants. So it's a real significant move that a year ago we saw India do what a lot of us are doing, what I suggest doing, and that is keeping your valuable assets in your own possession and not with a broker, not in a safety deposit box, and not in a bank, obviously. Gold accounts for 9.3% of India's total foreign reserves. This is a chart that a lot of us have been talking about over the last year. It's a double cup and handle. It's you can see the two cups here. I don't have a pointer, but this chart suggests that silver by the end of the decade could be in the many hundreds of dollars an ounce. What it doesn't suggest, or what it doesn't really illustrate, is the extreme stress on the physical silver coming out of the ground and above ground stockpiles. And it doesn't illustrate this 300-to-1 ratio of paper to silver, physical silver. This thing could, completely be blown apart when this squeeze that I believe is coming is really hits, the fan, if you will, and starts to blow up. Whoops. Oops, I'm going the wrong way. There's that chart. So this chart suggests $600 to $800 US silver by the end of 2024 if you expand it out. And it's long overdue. And like we just saw, in a proper, fair and free market, properly adjusted for inflation at the very least, we'd have a 15-to-1 ratio against gold, which would put silver into the many hundreds of dollars an ounce, $250, $300 an ounce today. But the fact is that silver is used, and all the mine supply is used, and then some. And gold really just sits around. This is an extremely interesting chart to me. It illustrates the silver to gold ratio, which for many hundreds of years hovered between 10 and 20. right up till sort of the turn of the century, World War I. There's only been 3 times in this 338-year chart that the silver to gold ratio has been above 80 for longer than 5 years. We're in that zone still. The silver to gold ratio is still about 80 to 1, despite supply in the ground being 7 to 1. And again, all the silver mined is used and then some. All the gold mined is not. It is all still above ground and hanging around the necks of Indian women and various other women from other nations, but also used as a reserve by a lot of the central banks in the world still. It's now, and many of you know this, a tier 1 asset. And the banks treat it as such. And the demand from central banks is growing, not shrinking. So this is a very interesting chart. The chart suggests that this deviation, this 2.6 standard deviation above its long-term historical ratio cannot last. And we should see the silver to gold ratio, which I believe in a fair market would be about 10, but it should return back to its historical average, which is 29. And you can see some of the other comments there. We have yet to see a decisive breakout above the true previous peaks. Here's an important reminder that triple tops rarely hold. So in my opinion, if you're sitting on a bunch of gold, and I've helped make this trade for a number of people, gold for silver, if you have gold for silver, where you're sitting on 80 ounces of silver for every ounce of gold. And I believe now is the time to make that trade. The silver to gold ratio has never been higher, can only go lower. And when it goes lower, and it will, to 50, 29, 10, 7, 3, perhaps par. I know people that think silver should be trading higher than gold. Then you can trade your silver back for gold. Not that it's going to be any less heavy, but if you're so inclined to hold gold, that's a pretty good trade. 80 to 1 today and par tomorrow on the extremes. Here's our friend Gali from TD Securities again, talking about just recently, just a few weeks ago, about the free float, that is the available silver in London, being well below average, resulting in an unprecedented rise in lease rates. Now, I don't understand exactly how silver is leased, but banks pay a fee to borrow silver on paper. And there's a lot more borrowing going on paper, obviously, than there is physical silver. And the lease rate spiked here over the last little while sharply, as you can see. And again, here's our friend Daniel from TD Securities blasting this out to everybody on the internet, which again is quite shocking. And included in his post are a couple of other charts that are very revealing. The guy is on his game, and it's surprising to me that he still works at this bank. What's interesting is that TD was in the news recently, and that they put on a short trade at $48 an ounce and closed it out over $50 an ounce and suffered a $2.3 million loss. And Gali, again, is quoted in this article and telling, the reporter that as expected, the supplies have been squeezed, the silver lease rates exploding higher. Well, it makes no sense to me why he, with all of the intel he's been sharing, is part of this, this position. Anyways, they put on a short, I guess, feeling that these $50 prices in U.S. dollar terms was going to cause a bunch of metals to shake loose, and investors are going to part with it. Well, it's the exact opposite, and I'm a witness to that, in that I've sold for every 10 people who walk into my shop, 9 are buyers right now, and have been over the last month. Virtually no sellers, and this is happening all over the world. So these pullbacks, like we've seen here recently, don't really work the way the cartel hopes. In fact, they don't work at all like the cartel hopes. They're hoping they're going to shake you. They're hoping that you'll sell some metal back to someone like me, and it might end up in their hands. And that's not the case. Over the last month, I've sold more metal than I have all year. In fact, this morning I had 5,700 ounces of silver arrive on a courier, 11 boxes. I was tempted to take some pictures of it, but we had a giant delivery this morning. Deliveries have been backed up. We've got probably 40 or 50 orders in the pipeline that haven't been delivered, and that Purolator only picks up 400 orders a day out of Calgary for us, and we're doing far beyond that. So it's interesting, the psychological operation that's going on, and it is backfiring on the banks. But to see TD get hit by this silver train, trying to get cute with their leveraged position is it kind of puts a smile on my face. This is what the banks have been doing for years. The question should be why? Why is TD shorting silver at $48 an ounce? Who is their client? Do they even have a client? Theoretically, they don't mine silver. They don't produce any silver. Theoretically, there should be a client they're acting on behalf of, but it's not what I suspect. I suspect they probably had a big argument in the boardroom, and someone got the better of Daniel and put on a short and paid for it. So this was a post from a fellow I follow in Switzerland. Don't be fooled by the latest price drop. The LBMA, he says, is in panic mode. When he talks about T+1, he's talking about plus 1 week. So settlement +1 to settlement +8 weeks. Rumors of 10 weeks. Vaults are practically empty. Only ETF silver remains. That ETF silver is owned by investors, but no investor has a claim on it. So it's that age-old story. Who really owns that silver? How much rehypothecating is going on? How many claims on that silver are really in place? And who's going for the actual silver? And as we saw earlier, India went and repatriated all their gold out of the Bank of England, which is different from the LBMA warehouses, but the premise is the same. We don't want anyone holding our gold or silver anymore. And thank you very much. We're going to take it. And I would suggest anybody that's in an ETF, especially the SLV, do the very same thing. Sell that thing, because you're never going to own silver. Those shares really aren't a claim on silver. They're just a proxy for silver. And unfortunately, 9 out of 10 people that invest in the metals don't end up with any physical metal. It's a funny paradigm we have in the West. And you can see some of the other comments here that Mr. Steiger made. Government mints completely tapped as the wholesale market eats up all the silver. Mints in Canada, South Africa, Australia. I saw a number of YouTubes and Twitter feeds from people who were scanning websites in England. Everything was sold out. Scanning websites in Poland. Everything was sold out. Japan was the same thing. There were no small weights of silver. We'll see what happens from here, but the next price targets aren't staggering in my opinion. 63 US, $80. That's a laydown. In my opinion, in a fair market today, we'd have 250 today, but we don't have a fair market, but possibly we're getting close. Possibly we end up with a cash market one day. This, again, reporting out of India. Business Line is a Indian newspaper talking about the structural shortfall. That is the difference between all the mined silver and all the silver demanded is very much in play with 7 years of structural deficits. The squeeze in silver has led to an interest rate for borrowing the metal from banks to over 30%. Data shows silver holdings in the London vault have dropped by 30%. Supply crises. Never before has the Canadian Mint failed to deliver these bars to the market. Australia's Perth Mint suspended all silver products. So at the very worst, we're seeing delayed deliveries. I'm a witness to that again. We've got some orders that are backed up now 2 to 3 weeks. Those delivery times are probably going to get longer. I'm sure they're going to get longer. And a reminder that Canada's banks are not the pillars that we've all been led to believe, and that you're not richer than you think, and it's only a song and dance that they play on the hockey game. many years ago, not that long ago, actually, our banks were bailed out to the tune of about 225 billion. That included money that went to the mortgage insurer, CMHC, and it's not CMHC, yeah, Canada Mortgage and Housing Corp. They got a bunch of money, and the report goes on. Anybody can Google this. The BMO at the time received $34 billion, and at the time it was greater than their market cap. So Canada's banks are not in good shape, and bailing them out didn't help the situation at all. In fact, it made it much worse. Kicking the can for the last 14 years has made it much worse. And I would suggest keep as little in the bank as you possibly can, enough to pay your bills and keep your savings and the money you've worked so hard for in real money, not fiat money, and make a move when you can, if you can. It's not easy sometimes. So just to review, I'm a wholesale agent for Silver Gold Bull. We've done $135 million with Silver Gold Bull over the last few years. A beautiful company. I know the owners personally. There's 75 people working in Calgary, founded in Rocky Mountain House since 2012, almost 500,000 five-star reviews. Payment is really easy to make. We accept bill payments from all the major banks, right from your account to ours. You just add us as a payee, throw in our A4C account number. It's there. Enter an amount, obviously, hit click, send, and the money arrives the next day. Delivery is guaranteed. In all the years I've been working with Silver Gold Bull, I've known one shipment for about $9,000 worth of material go missing to Vernon, actually. It was a Purelator delivery in Vernon that never showed up. We believe it was an inside job. The metal was quickly delivered to the client, obviously, and then we deal with the insurance company in the very unlikely event that something goes missing. Now, with Purelator recently, and the loads they're handling at Canada Post, we've had a couple incidents where they're not getting to where they should because they've got such a workload, so they're leaving orders at Purelator stores that can sometimes be an hour's drive from where someone lives in a northern Ontario or northern BC. But we'll get the metal to you, and if it involves a drive, well, so be it. It's a fact of life today that the metal gets as close to you as we can. 95% of the cases, we're bringing it right to your door. Purelator is, and or Canada Post. And just a little picture of my shop in Kelowna. I took a bit of a stand against the vaccines and the masks back during 2021, got a little press for that. I put signs on my door that said, "Do not enter if you've been vaccinated," believe it or not. And there was a bit of a kerfuffle in Kelowna with the local fake news, but everything's worked out. And I had all kinds of support from people like you folks listening. And I thank you for that. And it's been a wonderful ride meeting everybody. And we've all sort of found our tribe. And I'm glad and happy that I did what I did because it helped me meet Tanya and meet so many of you and help you, those that we have helped. I think we've done about 150 to 200 orders for Action for Canada members. And I love doing it. And if you want some help, making this move, I'm here for you. And thanks very much. I'll wrap that up and take any questions if there are some.
There we go. Thank you, Steve. That was an incredibly educational and informative presentation that you gave. I like the details that you're giving regarding the banking system as well. For years, we've been saying they're not reliable. And we like to refer to them sometimes as the banksters,
Yeah.
rather than the bankers, because of the nefarious dealings that have been going on, especially at the upper levels. Right, we're not talking about the tellers that you're face to face with, on a weekly or daily basis. We're talking about those at the higher levels that, especially in the TD Bank, we've heard there's been a lot of corruption, and we need to be able to, secure our assets. And you had mentioned the bank bailouts, but I just want to remind our viewers that in the budget back in, boy, that goes back a little ways. It was pre-COVID, so I'm thinking 2000, 17 or 2018, they had put in, they had included bank bail-ins in the budget, which means that in a bank bailout, the government will bail out the bank. It's still with our tax dollars, but that's equally, all taxpayers are paying for that. But the bank bail-ins go straight into your accounts and they empty your account out, and your safety deposit box is not safe, and they use your money to bail out the banks. Correct me if I'm wrong, but that was of great concern and remains great concern. And they say, oh, don't worry about it because you have the banking insurance, but that is only up to $100,000. So really what Steve is saying, and again, we're not giving you financial advice, we're just advising you what is going on with the banking system and, with the price of silver and gold, et cetera, so you can make the best financial choice for yourself. But if you invest in silver, then what was it? It's just like if you can't touch it, you don't really own it. And I think, Steve, that's what you were saying,
Yeah.
right?
If you don't hold it, you don't own it.
Right. And so can you tell our viewers as well, because there's a lot of people that still think that RSPs, that was the biggest, I don't want to call it Ponzi scheme, but what would you refer to that as, RIFs and RSPs, where they offer you this deal at the beginning, but they really get you at the end. When you're now retired and you want to take that money out, people are being charged 40%. You can't just go in and take all your RSPs out without being charged 40% unless you take a small amount, like say you want $10,000 out, depending on what your yearly income is, you possibly won't pay any taxes, on that small amount. But if you want to take out $100,000, then you're in a little bit of trouble because you're going to have to pay most likely the higher tax bracket, and that's going to be 40%. But you also deal with Quest Trade if people want to get those RIFs or RSPs transferred from the market into hard silver. You can help them make that transfer and give them some direction to go to Quest Trade, purchase the silver. Then as silver grows, they're still, making a lot of money. They're increasing their portfolio, and then they can sell the silver at a percentage that will keep them in the lower tax bracket, but do that yearly until they've maybe removed all of it from the RIF and have it purely in silver without any government oversight. Did that make sense?
Yeah, it is possible to hold silver and gold within your RSP, but the first step is to activate with Quest Trade because they're the only company in Canada that enables that trade, if you will. After you've got those new accounts set up, you have Quest Trade broker shift some of your portfolio, all your portfolio to them. You need to sell some of that to cash, and then you appoint us as your bullion dealer. It's a simple form, and then we can run an order and we can draw funds in US dollars actually from your Quest Trade account. I'm personally not a big fan of registered retirement savings plan since I looked up the word register, which means to assign legal title. And do you really want your savings assigned legally to a bankrupt corp called Canada? Yep. Maybe you do to avoid the tax consequences, but I think there's other ways to hold or expose your RSP to silver and gold at a much narrower premium. For example, Sprott's ETF is a really cheap way to get in and out of silver, a silver proxy, a silver derivative. You're never going to hold the actual silver holding shares in an ETF, but then I don't believe you're ever going to hold the actual silver in your RSP. In fact, you don't hold the silver. You pay us to hold the silver for you. So I'm not a big fan of them. I'd suggest you own an ETF or even a mining stock, or cash out some of your RSP, $5, $10, $20,000, whatever it might be, 10, 20, 30%, and own some real physical silver if you don't now.
No, but it's
have
still
some in your hands.
It's still, people have said it's still better to move your RSPs or RIF into hard silver, even if you have to store it, because right now, if the stock market crashes, whatever paper that you are invested in or that your financial advisor has you invested in could disappear just like that. But at least if you have hard silver, one, it's increasing every day. But two, you don't have to worry when the stock market crashes, your silver will still be there. And then you can get it transferred over. And as you say, withdraw it as much as possible to stay in a lower tax bracket. Would that sound correct?
Yeah, you can, you don't hold silver yourself inside your RSP is all I'm saying.
No, but it's
Uh,
still stored. Like if it's stored at
it
Brinks, for
is stored.
instance. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's not like the government can go into Brinks and take your silver from you, but they can.
Well, hold on. The
Okay.
word register means to assign legal title.
Oh, okay.
Registered retirement savings plan. What you were just talking about, a government bail-in. I think the most likely place the government goes, because they're flat ass broke, is to registered accounts. Those accounts have been assigned legally to the federal government. Of
Right.
course, I mean, think about the history of communist governments. They will destroy the currency after they destroy everybody's wealth, but destroying, they'll cling to power as long as they can and steal as much as they can in the
Yes.
meantime. And registered accounts are probably where they're going to go. They're going to be the easiest places to go.
Yeah, it's concerning every way we look at it unless you
Yeah.
actually own it. But then you can't, people cannot, and I don't think it's advisable to store it all at your home because this is going to turn out to be the wild, wild west. Sometimes I wonder if we mention Pure later or these other individuals who at this point as well are not actually Canadians that are delivering this product to our door. And there is a reputation to be had there as well that there would be concerns about noting addresses, who are receiving these type of shipments. And I know it wouldn't say silver on the package, but people need to think about this. They need to consider where they're going to store this as well, because we want everybody to be safe and protected. Now, Steve, I have the Q&A just loading up right here. And so let's try to do it where I'm going to give you a question and try to answer it in 30 seconds type of deal.
Sure.
And see if we can get through. We probably won't get through all of them because we're at the top of the hour, but we'll try to get through a few. And again, we're not giving you financial advice. We're trying to work through these questions so that you can make the decisions. So Ken has asked, what happens to stocks when there is a fiat currency crash? Do the stocks retain value as owners of viable businesses?
Yeah, I think everything denominated in fiat goes to zero when fiat goes to zero.
Yeah. It's a loss, a major, major big loss. And that's why we're trying to, advise people, not give advice, but to inform you that you really need to take a look at this. As Steve said, have what you need in the bank to pay your bills. Do take cash out. We want people shopping with cash at the stores because they say use it or lose it. So make sure that you have cash on hand, but at the same time, be smart and have a balance in your portfolio. Howard has asked, are silver ETFs like Sprott's silver safe to hold? SLVR.
Yeah, Sprott's Physical Silver Trust is the only one I would ever suggest anybody owns. The metal's in Winnipeg at the Royal Canadian Mint, and the share is 96% secured by silver. And you can move in and out of this ETF within your current RSP. You don't need the Questrade option. You don't need to go to Questrade to own this instrument. Now, you're never going to pull silver out of the ETF, but your dollar value of your shares that are representations of that silver are going to potentially go much, much higher. And hopefully when they go much, much higher, you'll be able to liquidate some of that before the government comes to corral all your money out of your registered retirement savings plan and put it into physical silver. You can do it now, you can do it later.
Okay.
But in the short term, you want to expose yourself to silver. Sprott's ETF is the only one I would suggest.
Okay, super. Thank you. Okay, so Lenny asked Steve, the late Ted Butler, Ned Steer from GATA have said years ago that JP Morgan have a physical stash of silver of approximately 1 billion ounces. Now that their short positions have been drastically reduced, do you think JP had to give up some of their stash to satisfy London's demands?
Well, that's a heck of a question.
Yeah.
Ted Butler's been gone for a year. It's highly likely, that JP Morgan could be bailing out to some degree the LBMA that's so short of silver, and perhaps other bankers in high places and charging a 20 or 30% fee to do that and making another, bunch of money doing that. I don't, since Ted's gone, it's hard to know what the positions are. I mean, no one's really filled that role that Ted Butler served for us silver stackers all over the world. He was a great man, and that's a great question, and he's probably right. That it's probably being used to plug the holes in the dike in various London and New York vaults.
Yeah. Well, we can agree that we hope all these fraudsters and banksters that well, ultimately they're going to pay the price. I always say when they're going to stand before God, honesty is in integrity. When you're robbing people blind, that doesn't go well. So for thieves and robbers, so they'll either face it here on earth, which I hope they do, or they'll face it on the day of judgment for sure. Okay, Al asks, what's to prevent government from enacting gold and silver confiscation in Canada? They are on track to confiscate our property and firearms as it is. That's why I said about the Wild West, right? Don't give up your guns. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't think they're competent enough. The thing about gold and silver, when you hold it in physical form, there's no paper trail. With a title to a property registered at the provincial level, there is a trail. We've registered our properties in the name of residents at the provincial level. That resident is a fiction, and don't pay your taxes for a couple of years. You'll find out who really owns your property. There are no taxes paid on silver and gold in physical form. There is no registration required. How would they even know? And again, it's going to require you to volunteer that metal coming forward. It's kind of like the gun grab. If the gun's never registered, they're never going to know about it. I think it's the last thing they're going to come for, because it's not 1% of 1% of us Canadians hold physical silver and gold. 99.9% of Canadians hold all their wealth in RSPs and real estate. That's where they're going to go. Those are the easy targets for a socialist/communist government, in my opinion.
Right. Well, there's enough firearms owners in Canada as well still, and that's why they're working so hard to disarm Canadians, right? Is so that they can turn us into a socialist state. And that's why we're having this show tonight, is to just say respectfully, viewers, our members, please think about what we're telling you and do what you need to secure your finances for the future, for you and your family. And, if there's enough communities that are coming together, and that's why Action for Canada is so ideal, if more people would just get on board and help us build chapters across this nation, because then you do have that community within communities of like-minded people who are dealing with situations like this, who are ready to defend themselves, against whatever the government is going to try and enact against us. And hopefully, there's countries that have overturned these corrupt Marxist governments, and we're going to hope the same. Like El Salvador has had a major win, and you've got Milei in Argentina. Things are happening. Huge, massive win for Milei this week, and it was very exciting to see. And he's just taken his chainsaw to all the globalist agenda and just chopping it all up and getting them out. El Salvador president, what is it? He locked up tens of thousands, of people who were involved in the socialist takeover of their state, of their country. And so we can do this in Canada. We're still the majority, but we need people to get geared up and understand that, don't feel comfortable as the noose is tightening around your neck. Okay, so I'm going to try to get through a couple more. Somebody said, what is a triple top? Deborah asked.
Well, a triple top is a sort of a charting term, like we saw in that silver to gold ratio triple top. And the fellow who put that chart forward suggests it's not going to hold. They never hold. So remember that chart was revealing a very high silver to gold ratio that is completely out of whack and distorted of 80 to 1. And it's been near there for 5 years. This is despite silver in the ground being 7 to 1, 7 ounces of silver every 1 ounce of gold. It cannot last. My suggestion is now is the best time of all to trade an ounce of gold for 80 ounces of silver. Mm-hmm. And when we revert to a normal historical ratio of 15 and probably much lower eventually, trade your silver back into gold. And that's how you buy gold at 90% off.
Right. That's awesome. Yeah. Okay. Somebody's asked, thank you for your excellent information. Do we need to make an appointment to come and see you, or can we just walk in? If you're in Kelowna, you can just walk in.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah. Call me ahead of time. Yeah. I'm not always there. I don't really post hours, but it's a very secure location to have a nice private meeting. There's no cameras on, but it's very secure. And just call me in advance if you're in the Okanagan for sure.
Absolutely. Okay. And then, like we say, come to Action for Canada's page. It's on our homepage that you can access Steve's email and, have a conversation with him about potentially making a purchase.
Yeah, we've delivered to the doors of virtually every Action for Canada member. Probably 95% of the orders we've done for Action for Canada members have been, delivered to the door, insured courier.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. So would you recommend getting smaller amounts of silver? I was looking today at 1 to 10 and quarter ounce coins.
Well, yeah, I mean, small amounts of silver are, in my opinion, a good idea for bartering in the future. But when people buy bars and then I get this question, well, how am I going to pay my mechanic with a big bar? I say, well, you know what? We're both parties are capable, at least I hope we're still capable of using a ledger and a pencil. So if there's some carryover, let's say your transmission repair is $5,500 and your bars were $7,500, well, $2,000 equivalent could stay on account with a mechanic for the next couple of oil changes or your next visit. Same with the grocer. You could pay your grocer on a monthly basis with a 10-ounce bar, and any $100 difference for or against could be carried over to the following month. But, as long as you know your grocer, your mechanic, your dentist. But for, small items that you might be buying at a farmer's market, for example, and walking away, having some, in my opinion, old silver $50, Canadian $50, quarters and dimes, a good idea. Each $50 is 0.3 of an ounce, and they're still affordable. A quarter is 0.15 of an ounce, and it's like a $10, $12 bill today, and that's a nice weight to have. And I generally do have that on hand. It's almost sold out everywhere on the big online dealers, but I keep a lot of it around because I do see it come in off the street from time to time.
Okay. Yeah, sounds good. Okay. Storage of silver can be a problem. Oh, that's a comment. Can we use our silver or gold? Well, what I was going to say as well, in previous shows, there's been, if it really came down to it and people, fiat cash was to completely collapse and have zero value, other options were cigarettes and alcohol that you could pay or trade with. So those were a few items you might want to stock up on as well. I don't know, a couple of Mickeys of this or that. I don't quite condone the alcohol, but if
the hottest currency in jail were Mandarin oranges and bacon.
Okay, there you go. All right. I'm just scrolling down a little bit. We're running out of time here. Regarding the GS ratio, gold silver ratio.
Gold silver ratio, yeah.
Yeah. What ratio would you suggest using silver to buy gold? Well, right now, probably, right? What is 10-1 or higher? Was it 10-1 or higher?
Yeah, I right now with the ratio where it is, it's time to buy silver. And if I got the question right, turning your silver back into gold, I believe at a historical ratio, which we had until about 1980 of 15, would be a reasonable number. But The fact is, all the silver every year is being consumed and then some by industry and investors collectively. That's been the case 7 years in a row. A lot of silver ends up in the landfill, and that phones and keyboards and smart appliances and solar panels and batteries that don't run without silver end up in the landfill. Unlike gold, all the gold ever mined is still above ground. Nobody throws it away. It's all still above ground. So much silver ends up in the landfill, and it's a great time to trade gold for silver. I've helped a few of your Action for Canada members do it.
Okay.
And I think one gal is 15 ounces of gold ended up being what was it, about 1,200 ounces of silver. It was a great trade.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
But personally, I personally think silver is more valuable than gold. The world does not run without silver. It's the second most widely used commodity on Earth after oil. And life as we know it does not exist without silver. Air, water, and silver.
Yeah, because you were saying, what were some of the items that they're in cell phones? You said that AI, I think you had said to me when we were talking that, if you want AI just to come to an end, stop selling your silver, stop putting it back in the market, because they desperately need silver in order to advance AI.
The solar and the batteries. There's a new Samsung battery apparently out. I think it's out. It's a car battery it's got a 15-minute charge time, apparently, a 900-kilometer range, apparently. It requires a kilo of silver equivalent. If 15% of all electric car owners were to switch to this battery, and that's a reasonable number, someone did the math, it would cause another 460 million ounces of demand on silver that isn't there. Remember, global supply is 850 million ounces. It's just not there.
No, yeah, it's an incredible time that we're living in right now. I mean, there's definitely silver in the ground, but it's gonna, as you say, it takes time.
It takes years. It's virtually impossible here in British Columbia. There's no incentive to do it.
No, and like up north, we have wonderful opportunities to be bringing silver out of the ground, and the BC government has made it near impossible. Okay, so I'm going to do one or two more questions. Somebody said, what about FinTrack? I'm not sure what you mean there, Heidi. Do you have any comment for that? It just says, what about FinTrack? FinTrack.
Yeah, there's no FinTrack reporting that we do. There's none that you have to do. FinTrack likes to force banks or merchants to disclose the source of more than $10,000 in cash when you're buying something, whether it's a car or putting it right back in the bank account. I handle cash. I don't bother with FinTrack, but some of the bigger dealers do, but most don't even bother. It's almost a non-issue anymore because nobody wants to deal with it.
Okay.
It's just a cash issue.
Okay, so Sharon has said, so if a person buys gold that they can physically hold in the event they need to sell, do they go directly to Sun City Silver? If so, do they get the current daily sell rate, or are they at the mercy of whatever price they can get? How does that work?
Well, all the reputable dealers will post a buy rate on their websites typically that moves in real time with the spot price in the futures market. So if you go to our website right now, there's a little button at Silver Gold Bull's website. It's not my website. There's a little button on the right-hand side that says "Sell to Us," and you can plunk in your gold maple or your 10-ounce silver bar, and you'll see exactly what the prices they're paying at that moment, and it's near spot. Now, in a tight market, and there's been tighter markets, almost as tight as that we're dealing with now. I've paid as high as $6 over spot for silver maples back in 2009 in cash. Today, I bought a gold maple off the street from a fella and $50 under spot. So near spot or a little bit under for gold, but a lot of dealers are paying over spot, quite a bit over spot for silver right now if you've got certain products that they're looking for.
Okay, so Steve, thank you for that. We are going to wrap up the show now, and I tried to cover as many questions as possible I could. It was hard to scroll through them. They were coming up from different directions. I want to thank you so much for coming on. But in closing, what do you hope that people are going to take away from tonight's Empower Hour. And maybe more specifically, not just in terms of investment moves, but how shall I say, in mindset and awareness for the future.
Well, I recognize a few of the names on the chat, and I know that those names I recognize because they bought physical silver, and good for you, and congratulations to you folks for being so prudent. I guess, my message is that every fiat currency the world's ever known has eventually reverted to its original value, which is paper, which is toilet paper, really. Mm-hmm. And, everybody with assets in that system is enabling that system. It's Satan's system. Mm-hmm. The debt-based money system is a creation of the dark side of life, Satan, if you will. Mm-hmm. And we've been enabling our own slavery the whole time we've been plugged into it.
Right.
They need us. It's like the Matrix. They need us and our assets plugged into their system in order to enslave us. Mm-hmm. And it's time to end it. At least get your savings and get control of your savings. It's not easy. Every broker out there, when any client asks about moving into silver and gold from an RSP, gets a big rigmarole, and they talk 9 out of the 10 people out of it, to be honest. Mm-hmm. And it's you're going to have to be as tough, with your own wealth as you were with your own health, standing up to vaccine mandates. It wasn't easy, and we took a lot of heat for it, and we were called a lot of names for it. Be prepared, to be called a few names over this sort of move that you're making with your own money. Don't be ashamed of it. Silver and gold have never failed to be money, never once. They've never gone to zero. They've always been true money, and fiat currencies, every one of them at the same time, has failed. And you don't have to go far to find someone who remembers that failure firsthand, whether it be someone from Poland or Greece in the 70s or someone more recently, Argentina or Venezuela. They're out there, and you can talk to them. You can get online and hear their stories. What a horror show it is. And I'd like to remind people that communist governments destroy the currency every single time.
Right. Yeah, it's part of the strategy.
It's number one.
Well, and can I just give an example before we wrap up here of the power of the people? Was when Trudeau, I gotta shake my head. I'm not gonna call him PM because it's just all kinds of wrong. But that guy, when he went to because the Emergency Act was never initiated in response to COVID. He tried to enact it in response to the truckers. And once he started to go into the bank accounts of people, the private bank accounts, he then was going to enact the Emergency Act, and it was the banks who reached out to him and said, stop what you're doing. And the reason is because there was a flood of people going to the banks to take their money out. Mm-hmm. And so the banks were panicking because they were having a difficult time. As you know, they hardly keep cash on hand now. And people were wanting to say, like, you can get my $10,000 in here. I want my cash. I want to take it out. And so we have that power right now that if people were go to the banks and take out all of their savings, except for what is needed to pay their bills, the banks will start to crumble. And because of what JP Morgan is doing, if I'm understanding everything, part of your presentation and talking about JP Morgan, this is going to catch up to them. Now, they're probably making those investments for themselves, and the people behind this may survive it, but the banking system could collapse if the majority of Canadians and citizens around the world would do their part in removing their savings from them. And it can be difficult to do, especially right now. And that's all strategically planned, is because people are living paycheck to paycheck, barely mm-hmm. being able to pay the mortgage or the rent. So just one final comment on that, Steve, to reply, like, what is a final word of encouragement that you would say to Canadians, like, pay cash, bring cash, buy your groceries with cash, do things like this? But is there anything else that you could recommend?
Well, it's funny you mentioned JP Morgan, because Jamie Dimon, the chairman of JP Morgan, just suggested that $10,000 gold wasn't a stretch at all. Just, I think it was a couple of weeks ago, so it was kind of funny. But the reality is our banks already collapsed.
Mm-hmm.
They collapsed back in 2010, 2011, 2012. They just covered it up.
Right.
And bailed them out with 220 billion of your money, and it cost every man, woman, and child in the country the equivalent of $3,500 to keep BMO, Scotiabank, and CIBC alive. I guess my message is, you've got another chance here before this SHIT hits the fan again, because had we not collectively bailed them out, you would have lost all your money in those three institutions. So here you've been given a reprieve. You still have it in there, and there's still a chance to move it. And I believe every day you don't, you're playing Russian roulette, because I believe these people are completely incompetent that are running things in Ottawa and Victoria. And this budget issue and the names they're calling other leaders, and we know who they are. They're acting like children. We could see a real currency crisis in Canada, just like in Venezuela and just like in Argentina. And you saw that stat, the price of gold in Argentinian pesos is 465,000. Argentina is a country very similar to Canada. It's got a lot of resources, wealth in the ground. The population is about the same, mainly Western European immigrants, from years gone by. Tell me what's different. Tell me what's different. Run by socialists for years. We've been run by socialists for years.
Yeah.
The only reason we haven't collapsed, I think, is because we're joined at the hip to this empire to the south. And we've been lucky to be joined at the hip to this empire to the south. And they've protected us, and we've been, a big trading partner. But if we screw this up, look out for your loonies. They're going to the floor.
Yeah. Yeah, and the if current government leaders, I don't know that they're incompetent. I think they're just extremely corrupt and lack any kind of conscience. And the almighty dollar in control has taken control of their soul. And this is something that will be the demise of Canada if we don't turn things around. But again, just thank you, Steve, so much for being on the show. If people want to get in touch with you again, we request that you go to our homepage and click on the link that will be provided, and you'll find the information and the email to contact Steve directly and ask your questions and make your purchases. So God bless you, Steve, for the work you're doing. Thank you for partnering with Action for Canada and being so good to so many Canadians and helping us out.
Very
we
nice
appreciate
of you, Tanya.
you.
You're doing great work yourselves, and have a great night, everybody.
Okay. Thank you. All right.
You're welcome.
See you again.
Okay.
All right. We hope that this has been very informative. I wanted to keep the show to an hour tonight, but it's now, a half hour of Q&A. I know that somebody asked in the chat if we will include that. Yes, most likely we'll keep it part of the video, or we'll cut it out and have it in a separate video. We'll make a decision on that, but just sign up to our Rumble page, and everything that we post then will be right at your hands, and you won't miss a thing. But we also post everything right back on our webpage in the day after, on the Thursday as well. So check our Rumble or our webpage, and you will be able to access this important, critical information of the presentation and the show tonight by Steve Merrill. All right, next week's guest, I'm really excited about this. Rhonda Miller is going to be joining us. And you know that I went to Washington, D.C. recently. I met with Rhonda and Audrey Werner, who have been doing a phenomenal job on behalf of our kids in protecting them and calling out the industry that is attacking our children. And one of the leaders of that, of course, has been Alfred Kinsey. But on the next show, what Rhonda is going to do is she is going to expose the 13 bloodlines who are behind the financing of destroying everything that we hold near and dear. And what I'm referring to in that is that we know we've all heard the Rockefellers and the Rothschilds. Well, we're going to do a deep dive. She's going to have an amazing presentation on this, but they are the ones that are behind prohibiting the firearms, taking control of our finances, removing our borders, sexualizing our children, orchestrating riots in the streets, And of course, funding our unions. Man, we're going to have a little bit of a conversation about our unions next week. You see if you don't know what's going on in Alberta with that teacher strike, don't take it at face value that these are the teachers wanting more money. They've been offered 12%, I believe it is, over 4 years, but the union wants 20%. And the union is also behind calling for a recall of Minister Nicolaides, who is the education minister, who has been championing removing the pornographic and sexual books from the education system. So the union is the ones that have become the Marxist arm of the globalists to bring the agitation within the communities and to gear up their members and use the memberships money in order to back what it is that they're doing. They paid something like in Alberta, something at $1.5 million, I heard at the last election to get their selected trustees elected. How can we compete with this? I mean, this corruption needs to be called out. And I love it. A woman down in the States is actually pursuing making unions illegal for the fact that they have become the Marxist arms. And I think we need to take this very seriously. And with all of our Empower Hours, we are always providing you solutions to the problems. I know there's a lot of podcasters out there. We really need the podcasters reporting the news. That would be an easy daily job for me because there is no lack of information to report to you. Where the real strategy comes in is that indeed strategy, providing resources and the campaigns in order to do that. And that's where Action for Canada comes in. So we need your financial support. We need you to get busy within your communities. We're making it so easy. We've got you the resources. We're educating you. And when these videos come out, especially one like what Rhonda is going to be presenting next week, we're going to ask you to take that and actually send it to your elected official, your MLA, your MPP, your MP, and request your trustees and request that they view it and then demand an answer from them. Do a research, like actually look into some of the names that Rhonda is going to be providing you, and you will be shocked to find out even the organizations that are functioning here and being funded by these individuals. And so we got to take them down and we got to expose them. These are our tax dollars that are funding our demise. And I'm fed up. I'm sick of it. That's why I've been at this for 10 years. I want my life back. I want to go and enjoy myself and have a normal life, but we're in the middle of a war and we don't have that luxury. And so you need to step up. We need more help. We need more hands on deck. All right. Thank you. So I've got 3 verses tonight to end off with. They should be encouraging to you. So Psalm 34:15-16 says, "The eyes of the Lord are on the righteous, and his ears are attentive to their cry. But the face of the Lord is against those who do evil, to blot out their name from the earth." I take comfort in that. And the next verse emphasizes that. It states from Psalm 145:20, "The Lord watches over all who love him, but all the wicked he will destroy." There will be a day where each one of these individuals, the leaders of our countries who are aligning with these globalists and intentionally destroying our sovereignty, which is based foundationally on a Judeo-Christian biblical standard and principles, and one which we benefited from for many, many decades. But now it's our turn to fight to maintain this for the future generations. And then the final verse that I've chosen is from Psalm 34:10. "But those who seek the Lord will not lack any good thing." And I just want to encourage you that if you have not received the Lord Jesus Christ as Lord and Savior of your life, consider making that decision today. And if you do, reach out to Action for Canada at call2@actionforcanada.com or at pastors@actionforcanada.ca. Or if you have questions, let us know, because we'd love to hear about that decision. I think what happens is, if you look at the history of the world, and especially the history of the Bible, when countries turn their back on God, which we've done, we've removed God from schools, the Bible from schools, God from government, even though biblical scripture is etched in our parliament buildings. And, from sea to shining sea is from sea to sea is from biblical scripture. It is embedded in our Constitution. All of this means that we are definitely a Christian nation, but People were elected into office who then started to proclaim that we were a secular nation. Then they declared we were a multicultural nation and started opening up the doors to all these false gods to allow them to set up in our nation. Well, the top two in the commandments are, you shall have no other God before me or make for yourselves idols. So if we're serious about this, we're going to crush the idols in this nation. We're going to start teaching biblical standards, like to our children, to honor your father and mother. That's also in the top 10 commandments, the 10 commandments. And it is the only one with a promise that says, and it will go well with you when you honor your father and mother. And our children are being taught in the school system to disrespect their parents, to be sneaky, to be lying, to withhold from them, to withhold respect and love for them. We got to turn this around. And the only way to do that is to get back to God. So I hope this is of encouragement from you. And then a final word actually from 2 Chronicles, the verse that says, right, that we if we were to are to repent and to turn from our wicked ways and to turn back to God, this is paraphrase, but that he will heal our land. And that is one of the goals of Action for Canada, is to reach the hearts and minds of our viewers and encourage you to start looking into the Word of God. If you don't know him, say, God, I'm feeling that nudge inside of me and I really want to know you. So please speak to me personally. And God will do that. He will be faithful to do that. And you know that you have people praying for you, because Action for Canada is praying for everyone in our nation and for God to heal our land. So I hope you'll join us next week. Thank you, God bless you, and God bless Canada.
In times of financial uncertainty, securing your wealth is more important than ever. With inflation, market instability, and economic challenges, many Canadians are turning to one timeless strategy: precious metals. Gold and silver have historically retained their value, offering a hedge against economic turmoil and a safeguard for your assets. If you're looking to invest, there's good news for members of Action for Canada. We're proud to announce our partnership with Steve Merrill of Sun City Silver. Steve is not only a friend of the Freedom Movement, but he's also offering Action for Canada members exclusive access to some of the best pricing in Canada. Thanks to his extensive client base and affiliation with Silver Gold Bull, you can now secure your precious metals at incredible rates. Silver Gold Bull is a trusted Canadian leader with live pricing available 24/7 and nearly 400,000 five-star reviews on Trustpilot. When you purchase through Steve, you're not only investing in your future, you're also supporting the Freedom Movement, as a percentage of each sale helps support Action for Canada. Plus, there's a bonus. If you place an order of $5,000 or more, you'll receive a 1-ounce pure silver bullet, a unique and valuable addition to your collection. And if you refer someone who places a $5,000 order, you'll get another silver bullet as a thank you. To get started, visit actionforcanada.com/purchasing-precious-metals/. Remember, your decisions are your own, and we recommend doing your own research before making any investment. But with Steve Merrill's guidance and our partnership, you'll be on the right path to securing your future. Secure your assets, protect your future, support the movement. Visit us today to learn more.
virtuous heart if you are here today pursuing freedom and righteousness. And then verse 23 comes along with a promise. God says he will turn the sins of evil people